Hey, I'm Ben. So this video is going to be pretty long and pretty detailed, but I hope that you're going to stick with it because I lived through it and it's a pretty good story at the end. So I was born in Connecticut and I lived there with my parents and my brother until age 9. When I was 9, we moved to Massachusetts, to Cape Cod, Massachusetts. It's an island slash peninsula that juts out into the ocean about 70 miles. It's shaped like this, and it's right south of Boston. It's really nice. It's a touristy area, and up until that point, living in Connecticut, I didn't really know much about the world. I had no reason to, be aware of the world outside of my little bubble of my family and my home and my school and my little town of Oxford, Connecticut. When I moved, though, a lot of things started happening. Obviously, I went to a new school, I had to make new friends, I started realizing that the world was more than just my little family. My grandfather also died right after I moved, so it was really the beginning of me being aware of the world being just more than me. When I moved to Massachusetts, 4th grade was pretty normal. I was pretty well accepted, I guess, for a new kid. 5th grade was pretty fantastic. I had a great teacher. And then probably 6th grade is when problems started. First off, I had a teacher who I really didn't get along with. She was just notoriously mean, and she was just not a good teacher. I didn't really get along with her, and she didn't really get along with me. And that was also when kids started becoming less kind to me, I'll say. I had a core group of friends, and for some reason, just one day, randomly, these group of friends decided that I wasn't allowed to be their friend anymore. And they wouldn't tell me why. They didn't have a real justification for it. And it ended up being a good thing because I ended up going to, a different lunch table than theirs because they wouldn't let me sit with them. And I made new friends, and they were good people. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise, but regardless, they, exiled me out of their group, and that was the first time that happened to me. I'd never been, just not accepted just for no reason. And I would later find out that it was this, former group of friends that started spreading things about me, started calling me names, started spreading rumors about me. Pretty bad stuff, especially as a 6th, 7th grader. During the course of 6th and 7th grade, I, like most people named Ben, got teased with the name Ben Gay, B-E-N-G-A-Y. If you are not from America or you don't have the product where you're from, it's basically, Ben Gay is like a topical skin ointment. I'm pretty sure, I haven't even used it, I've never bought it before, ironically, but I'm pretty sure that it's like a topical skin thing for relieving pain. And so B-E-N-G-A-Y became my new unnecessary nickname. People started using that. They also, started calling me other names, and I think it stemmed from the fact that I was just a very comfortable in myself kind of kid. I liked music. I eventually would go into drama and acting. I also eventually would become a dancer, and none of these things really helped me quell their, thinking that I was, not straight or anything, but regardless, I like doing those things, and they were things that made me happy, so if I like doing them, I don't care what other people are, gonna say about me. If they're gonna call me gay, then so be it. But at that time, I didn't understand why. I didn't understand that, kids were just cruel and mean and jerks. I didn't know that they could just for no reason, without justification, decide to hate me and call me names and make fun of me. So for about 2 years, this persisted, and in the middle of 7th grade, or the end of 7th grade, I tried to kill myself. I had been thinking about it for a while. I had thought about different ways that I could do it, thought about, different timings, different settings, things like that. But I did, in 7th grade, attempt to kill myself. So that, thankfully didn't succeed. I didn't go through with it, but I did, end up going to a psychiatrist and thinking things through and speaking things out and stuff, and it really, it helped me learn a lot about myself, and it helped me learn a lot about other people too, because I realized that other people really could just not like you for no reason. And I realized that that was their problem. They were bad people. They were the ones who had something wrong with them. It wasn't something, that was wrong with me. So, Anyway, in the second half of my 8th grade year, I was lucky to be able to leave that middle school and leave all of the torment that still was persistent. The school administrators in that middle school, Chatham Middle School in Chatham, Massachusetts, it probably is a different team of administrators at this point, but hey, why not throw them under the bus? But really, I mean, it was so terrible, and I knew it was so terrible how they were handling these things that I really don't have any sort of care for how that school is viewed now. I mean, it's a very small town. The graduating class is anywhere between 50 and 65 for each year, so you can understand that, like, it's a very small town, everyone knows everyone, and it's very politically driven. Like, the people who have the money or the people who are townies and are well known in the town, obviously their kids are going to get some sort of preferential treatment over the new kid who came from Connecticut who has no sort of, you know, clout in the small town. And that's how small towns operate. We went to the administrators, the principal and the superintendent, and it wasn't until we threatened with legal action that they would even acknowledge the fact that these kids were bullying me. I mean, it was to the point where I was making up excuses not to go to school to my parents. I was going to the nurse complaining of things that I didn't actually have wrong with me because I wanted to get sent home. I did not want to be around these kids, and for obvious reasons. You don't want to be in a situation, regardless of why, you don't want to be in a situation where you feel like you're being made to feel like less than, or you're being made to feel like that there's something wrong with you when you know that there isn't. So, anyway, the school administration did nothing, and you know, the kids got talked to, and that was it. I eventually was able to leave the school, like I said, in the second half of my 8th grade year and go to a vocational high school, a technical high school, where I studied graphic design. And it was the best thing that happened in my education, honestly. Better than coming to college, because it gave me an idea of what I wanted to do. It brought me to a different school with different people in a different setting, where we were all from, it was a regional school, we were all from different areas of Cape Cod. So it was nice. It was, you know, it was kind of like a melting pot, I guess you could say. So anyway, you know, the technical school gave me an idea of what I wanted to do with my career. It gave me a lot of different friends. It really, you know, it was the best thing that happened to me as far as schooling. So if you're in middle school right now and looking at high schools and stuff, or you don't feel like you want to go to your high school, look at a tech school. Just a thought. So anyway, when I went to the technical school, most of the teasing and stuff went away, and I never really thought there was any sort of basis to it. I never, you know, actively in my brain was like, okay, these people are making fun of me for a reason. No, it always was just like, they have a problem with them, and they have some sort of thing that they need to deal with that they're projecting onto me. And that's what I always just, you know, kind of dealt with. I always had straight relationships when I was growing up. I had, you know, a girlfriend in middle school who, I mean, we weren't official or anything. It was kind of like one of those middle school, like, oh, I like you, you like me, let's hang out a little bit, you know. But I had relationships in high school, with a girl, and I had a relationship in college, and or multiple, and then I never really got teased after that until I got to college. And funny enough, my first 3 weeks in the freshman year, I was living with people who I eventually, after those 3 weeks, would move out of the room and move in with, you know, people who became my really good friends. But for those first 3 weeks, I lived in this room with these two guys, and they blatantly would just call me things, call me gay, call me a fag, like the same exact, other than the Ben Gay thing, the same exact things that kids in high school were calling me, you know, or kids in middle school, I should say. I mean, when you're a kid in middle school and you're being called a faggot every day, and you have a name, a label as Ben Gay, and you don't even know what a faggot is, you don't know what that word means. Like, I had to go home to my parents and be like, I don't know what this is, but they're calling me it, and it hurts, and I don't like it. And clearly it's a bad derogatory term, I would later find out. And in middle school, I didn't know how to deal with it. Thankfully, in college, I did know how to deal with it. And I actually made a video here on Obviously Ben Hughes, and if there's an annotation on the screen, you're more than welcome to click it and watch it. But I made a video about these people, being intolerant to me before I moved out of their room. And it was something that, thankfully, I had learned how to deal with, and I had dealt with it for so long in my life that I was comfortable just getting myself out of that situation. So to say that I've grown up with gay hate and with, the old term for it is fag bashing. I hate that word, I hate the word faggot, but regardless, that's the old term for it. And growing up as someone who was hated on for something that they may or may not have been, it was, I guess I was better equipped in life to handle it later, and as much as I hate the fact that that happened to me in middle school, I'm glad it did because it set me up for life to know that I don't need to be fearful and I don't need to worry about, people's perceptions of me, because I know that that's their problem and that's their thing, and it's not a reflection of me. It doesn't make me a bad person when people say bad things about me, So that being said, I had straight, happy relationships in high school and college, and I recently went home about 14 months ago, I went home, and I went home for about a year, took a break from college, and I went home so that I could save up money. Needed to, work on finances and getting money for me coming back to school. The first year of it, the first 11 months of it, were not fun for me. I didn't like them. I really hated it. But I got through because I knew that I had to save money and I had to get back down here to Savannah, Georgia, where I am now, and I had to get back to school. That was the one thing that was really keeping me focused and keeping me happy on Cape Cod. And I was working at a fast food job. I was working somewhere that I loved the people and I loved the management, but I just didn't love the job. I didn't, it wasn't what I was meant to be doing. I, in my heart of hearts, knew that I was supposed to be here in Savannah, not Massachusetts, 1,100 miles away, not working at a fast food job, but instead working to get my degree, working to get, my education that I've been working on. And I have to apologize if the lighting changes. I'm in front of a window. Sorry. So anyway, for the first 10 or 11 months, I was just very unhappy. I was very cynical. I was very, downtrodden, depressed. I made a few videos. I made one about being burnt out, and then I didn't make many videos after that. And it was just a very bad place for me to be in. I mean, I was happy. I was living with my family. I was, making enough money, but I was so unhappy in being stuck there. I felt physically stuck. I couldn't get away, and the only thing that would have made me happy was to be here in Savannah, was to return. And so for those first 10, 11 months, I was just a very cynical, crappy, angry kind of person, and that's not me. Anyone who knows me in my life knows that I am not that way. I'm just not. I've never been an unhappy person. I'm always bright and cheery and optimistic, and it was just so different for me to not be that way. So in June, middle of June, June 14th, I went out with a friend. Went out to a bar, and I met a mutual friend, and or I met a friend of our mutual friend, I guess you could say. I was introduced to someone. That's how you put it. So I was introduced to someone, and he was a really nice guy. We were talking, about we had the same gym, we had the same common interests and stuff, and we were talking about, oh, maybe we can be gym buddies, we'll go to the gym together or something. We tried coordinating it a few times, it didn't actually ever work out, but we did end up hanging out the next few days after that. I would go over his house, we would hang out, and then I would head home, and, it was always just a sort of instantly formed friendship, And I would later realize that this person who I had become instant friends with was the person that I was falling in love with. And he was not a girl, he was a guy. And that was really something that I had to deal with. I had to deal with it. And it wasn't a bad thing, because I was falling in love. I was so happy. I was truly understanding what people talk about when they have all of those stupid emotions that people say happen when you fall in love. I was always that cynical person who was like, "Rah, it's not real. There's no actual, like, falling in love emotional ride and stuff. There's no, like, 2 months of floating on air. There's none of that." And how wrong I was. So I had to make a decision. I had to, you know, either decide to keep living as all of my friends knew me, straight, or come to terms with the fact that I just fell in love with a man. And it gobsmacked me. It, like, hit me upside the head how I fell for him. Like, I had always known that there was something in me that was attracted to men, but it wasn't in any way, you know, something that I tapped into. And I think a lot of that was because of middle school. A lot of that was because of the teasing that I endured. A lot of that was because of the things that I was called and the way that I was made to feel about something that I didn't even understand at the time. I didn't know myself that well when I was in 6th and 7th grade. I wasn't tapping into sexual energy. I mean, I know of friends who were talking about sex in 4th grade. When I moved up to Massachusetts, that was the first time I heard about sex, you know, actively out in the open. And I was like, you know, why do these kids care? I've never been a highly sexual being, and I've never been, you know, someone who, I was also never someone who was proud of their body. I was also someone who never was just openly willing to be like, here's information about me related to sexual things. Like, that's just not me, or it wasn't at the time. But I was able to realize that the love that I had for this man was real. It was something that I had to acknowledge because it was so undeniable that I could fall, you know, head over heels for this person and feel this way. It was so true and so right. So I had to deal with it, and I had to make a decision to tell my parents and tell my family and then tell my friends, and now I'm telling you. On June 14th, we met. On July 31st, I brought my parents out to dinner at Uno, Chicago Pizzeria, yay. and I told them, and it wasn't as emotional as I thought. It was more talking and just getting to the root of the point. I was probably the only one who cried at all, because I think when you're in that situation, you expect it to be something emotional, and you brace yourself so much because there's so much buildup in your mind before the event actually happens that you're like, oh my god, there's so many possibilities. They could hate me, they could love me, they could be indifferent. You know, it's just a lot of unknowns that you have to settle in your brain as soon as you tell these people. So July 31st, I told my parents, and I came out as bisexual. I'm not fully gay, I'm not fully straight, and I actually, if there was a way for me to define it, I guess the closest thing is pansexual, which is the understanding that you go for a person's mind and their thoughts and their beliefs and the person themselves, rather than what genitalia they sport. And I don't like to identify as pansexual because I don't know how broadly I love. I'm not aware of it. At this point, I'm bisexual, and I'm happy saying that. And that's the first time I've told people on the internet openly like this. Like, I told Facebook, but here it is. I guess this is my coming out. Awkward. But I mean, that's the truth, and I'm so happy. I think that I never really was able to understand the fact that I was able to love a man because those people in middle school suppressed that inside of me so much. They beat me down and beat it out of me to the point that I shut that side off. I completely shut it off. I didn't want to look at it. Anything on this side of the wall was just not visible to me. I did not want to acknowledge that side of my brain. And I realize now that those people, like, this is probably a terrible phrase for it, but it's like mental terrorism. Bullying really is. It's like mental terrorism. It's like taking a person who is perfectly fine, who is perfectly normal, who has nothing wrong with them, and tearing them down because you have your insecurities and you need to feel better about yourself. That is what bullying is. It's taking a perfectly good specimen, a perfectly normal human, and tearing them down. Not because that human has something wrong with them, but because you, yourself, the bully, feel that there is something wrong with you that you can't relate to, or because you're not secure in your own self, and you see this person who's so happy and so content and so willing and able to just live normally, that you don't think they should be allowed to. You don't think they should be allowed to live openly and freely and happily because you aren't living openly and freely and happily. That is what I think. I really truly believe that is the root of bullying. And it happened to me. I was convinced of the fact that homosexuality, especially inside of me and inside of my brain or my heart or my being, was just wrong. I was convinced of it because these people brainwashed me into thinking that. They literally kicked that out of me. They beat that out of me. And for a long time, I knew it. I knew it was there. I knew it was in my brain somewhere, but I didn't acknowledge it. I was not willing to, and it wasn't going to happen. So what am I trying to get at with all of this? There's a lot. There's a lot to it. I want to tell you that if you're being bullied right now for whatever you are, or for whatever you aren't, or for whatever people assume you to be, this is the most cliche thing. It's so prevalent, but the phrase "it gets better" has never been more true than it is for me. Never. I was bullied to the extent of thinking that there was something wrong with me that I had to suppress, when really there was nothing wrong with me. There was nothing that I could change about myself. There was nothing, that I could do to prove these people wrong. They were right, and I think the reason that I was so worried about coming out and so worried about, being honest about myself and with myself was because I didn't want those assholes who bullied me to actually be right. I didn't want to give them that justification. I didn't want them to, be right. And they were, they weren't right to call me those names and call me a faggot and call me, Ben Gay. They weren't right in the way that they did things, but yeah, they hit the nail on the head that I do like guys, but there is nothing wrong with that. Nothing. Nothing. I'm standing here today to tell you that there is nothing wrong with the fact that I am in love with a man. And if you have a problem with it, at this point in my life, if you have a problem with it, because so many people in my life don't have a problem with it and are willing to be supportive of me, if you have a problem with me leading whatever sort of lifestyle I want to lead privately, then you can get the fuck out. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I don't like swearing. I don't do it a lot on my channel. I do it sometimes in real life. But I mean that with every ounce of my soul. I don't need you. I don't need your justification of the way that I live. I don't need your validation of the way that I choose to spend my life. I don't need you. So basically, let's summarize. I was bullied to the point of trying to kill myself multiple times. And eventually, I was able to figure out that I just needed to be happy, and I needed to be in love, and I am, and he is amazing. He's, like, I can't even talk about him and, like, not get emotional, because I fell in love with a guy who lives in Massachusetts, and I fell in love with him on June 14th. I came out to my parents July 31st. I told my brother and sister-in-law recently, a few weeks ago. I told Facebook about a week and a half ago, and now I'm telling you. I fell in love with him June 14th. I moved away from him on September 8th. He is 1,100 miles away in Massachusetts. I never thought that I would be the kind of person who would actively engage in a long-distance relationship, but I am. And it's not because, I was always that person who would see long-distance relationships and be like, that ain't gonna work. But maybe it will. Maybe it can. I believe in what we have so excuse me. I believe in what we have so wholeheartedly that it seems stupid not to try, because I am so truly in love with this person that anything else would just be too painful. I would rather go through this and work to have a solid relationship with someone who I care about more than anyone than lose him because I can't be near him physically, you know? So, this video was going to go up on October 11th, National Coming Out Day, but I didn't want to do it that way. I wanted to do it my own way, in my own time. I believe in National Coming Out Day. I think it's a great thing. I think it's empowered a lot of people to be true to themselves, like I'm being true to you, and true to myself. But I didn't want to be a part of the crowd. I wanted to do things in my own time, and I feel like if you need to do things in your own time, when you feel comfortable, then do it. If you were a kid who was being bullied in middle school, or you are, I hate that cliche, but it gets better. It gets so much better. You won't even know how much better it gets until you reach that point. And I promise you that killing yourself, or hurting yourself, cutting, or, you know, trying to hang yourself, or shoot yourself, or asphyxiate yourself, or drown yourself, or anything, it's not the answer. It's not. It is not the answer. I'm living proof of it here, and it gets me really emotional because I feel like if I had killed myself years ago, I never would have met Bryan. I never would have fallen in love with him. That's terrible. That's so terrible. Like, I'd be robbing the person I love of someone that he never would have got to meet. And I never would have got to meet the person that I fall in love with, you know? Don't do it. Please don't do it, because it's not the answer. These people who are making fun of you right now are going to never leave their town, and they're going to be terrible people, and they're never going to amount to anything, and you are just so amazing. You are just more amazing than any of those people who are making fun of you, or teasing you, or making you feel like shit. You are just such a good person. And I don't even know you, but I know that you're a good person, because bullies don't pick on bad people. Bullies don't pick on bad people. They don't. Bullies are the bad people. They only pick on good people. And they only pick on people who they're jealous of, and who, you know, who they see and wish that they could be as comfortable in their own skin as that person. Bullies don't pick on bad people, and it does truly get better. It really does. Alright, that was a long enough video. I'm probably going to be making other videos. I mean, I'm definitely going to be making other videos regarding the topic of homosexuality and bisexuality and such in the future, but this is a good stopping point for now. There's a lot of things like, I don't like gays shoving it down my throat that they're gay. That's something that I want to address in a video. And other things, other topics. So please, if you have questions for me, if you have anything you want to talk about, I am now literally an open book. There is nothing that I am keeping from the internet, and I want to share everything, and I want to share how happy I am. Hopefully you will get to meet Bryan. I haven't decided that yet, but just know that regardless of whether you get to meet him or not, I hope that you love him as much as I love him, because he's amazing. He really is. So, thank you for watching. Thank you so much. Please tell me in your comments below what you thought of this video, and if you have any questions for me. And I hope that if you have not already, please subscribe to youtube.com/Ben or youtube.com/obviouslyBenHughes. That's the actual URL. But go to youtube.com/Ben, subscribe. Also check out my Twitter, obviouslyBen. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you later.